Hey, welcome in, golf fans. It's episode 13 of our HoT Golf Podcast, the HoT Conversation. HoT, of course, as you know by now, hopefully, is the heart of Texas, HoT. It's our focus, an ongoing 19th hole golf chat about the latest happenings in golf in Central Texas, about a 100-mile radius around the 512 in Austin, Texas, the heart of Texas in the great state, and around the country, around the world. Show emanates from our home base in Austin, Texas. I'm your number one T-Box host, as usual, Aaron Hogan. Also the host of Game Time each weekday morning from 6 to 11 on 1027 ESPN. This is also where you'll find our podcast and conversation at our YouTube page. We link it to 1027ESPN.com and our YouTube page there. As always, my playing partners and conversationalists this week and every week. He's an avid golf fan of more than 50 years, also the CEO and man in charge over at the historic Callahan's General Store. Nearly 50 years as an Austin legend themselves, a staple of the Austin community. He is our friend Charlie Wilson. Our third member brings 3 decades plus of on-the-ground knowledge within the Austin golf scene as a PGA Club professional, also the head of golf operations for the city of Austin Golf. He is our man, Steve Hammond. And as we'll introduce our fourth member coming up, a very esteemed guest who we're excited to talk about. Steve, Charlie, how are you guys doing today?
Doing good. We got some great weather out there. Soil temperatures are up to 65 degrees. We are in growing weather already on March 3rd. It's pretty exciting.
I mean, it's amazing. Bermuda is coming up. It's like, oh man, I hope this can hold. Hope this holds. Well, you know, if it gets up and gets in and holds, we'll be fine, even if we do have a snap. But man, this is great stuff. It just feels like golf spring is here.
You just hope that grass isn't confused. You hope it's growing and not confused.
Yeah. Well,
I came running in.
Callahan's, get some fertilizer.
Get some fertilizer at Callahan's, and get to your pre-emergence and all that down. And I know Steve and his agronomy crew are at all the courses there, keeping it going. But very excited for our fourth member of our conversation today. The PGA Tour, of course, announced a very exciting piece of news for golf fans back in October. The announcement from the tour that the PGA will once again be making a stop in Austin, and starting this November in partnership with Good Golf, the Good Golf Championship debuting as part of the FedEx Cup season. The tournament will be hosted at the Omni Barton Creek Resort and Spa. The Fazio Canyons course will take place November 9th through the 15th. We'll pray for good weather for that too. The world's best golfers returning to Austin for the first time since 2023 when the World Golf Championships, the Dell Technology Match Play tournament that was played for 8 consecutive years at Austin Country Club, played its final round. But the Good Championship will also serve as a groundbreaking crossover between professional golf and the media golf. It's the first tournament hosted by the digital first golf media brand Good, and its 2 million YouTube subscribers, 1 million Instagram followers. It has emerged as one of the leading contributors to golf's recent surge in popularity. And look who it is joining us on our 13th episode of the HoT Golf Podcast for the first time, hopefully not the last time. He is the tournament director of the Good Championship from the PGA Tour. He is Ian Helm. Ian, how are you? Thanks for being with us today.
I'm great. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here with you all today.
Yeah, well, you're drinking out of a fire hose, I'm assuming, since November or October's announcement, and here we are in early March. How are things going with Good and the event at Barton Creek?
Yeah, no, they're going great. I think you're spot on. Drinking from a fire hose is a great analogy, but I think we're super proud of the progress we've made since the announcement and planning. Obviously, with a year one PGA Tour event, we've got quite a bit we're figuring out. Tour typically recommends 15 plus months or so of planning for a year one event. So we've got a little tighter timeline than that, but we're progressing, and so far everything's been great. It's great to be back, having a PGA Tour event back here in the Austin market. Seen some super strong interest so far from a hospitality and a sponsorship standpoint. So far it seems like everyone shares the excitement.
No doubt. And I said you're with PGA Tour, but there's also I've been reading about the HNS Sports Media Group and the sports group that's a part of this too. What is your role within all of that structure as this thing comes back to Austin?
Yeah. So I work for HNS Sports Group. We are an agency based out of Dublin, Ohio. Started around the Memorial Tournament there. So we have been contracted through the PGA Tour and through Good Golf to really manage this event for them. Some background on HNS. This is really our bread and butter. So we're an agency, but we really focus in event management and golf specifically. So as an agency, we've got over 125 years combined of experience. This is our second PGA Tour event we'll be managing, in addition to Memorial, up there in Dublin, Ohio, Jack's event. We also manage 5 Champions Tour events, including the U.S. Senior Open upcoming at Scioto this summer. We operate another 4 Corn Ferry events, and we actually just began operating in conjunction with Astros Golf Foundation, the Chevron Championship down in Houston. So H&S, this isn't our first time around. It's our first time around here in Austin. But we've been around professional golf for a long time, and we're really excited about this event.
Charlie, Steve, jump in here.
Outstanding. So with that kind of background, I would imagine the mechanics of what you guys have to do are pretty familiar to you, Ian. How are you guys acclimating and in your case, reacclimating to the Austin market?
Yeah, I guess some background. Thanks for touching on that, Charlie. Some background. I was here in the market previously for the last few years of match play. I believe I was here from 2020 through the tail end of 2022. So I'm back in the market. So it's great having that background, having a few friends I can lean on, at least a few phone calls I can make. As an agency, obviously we're new to Austin, but we're not new to professional golf. So obviously every professional event's unique, especially when you're talking about, all you need to consider with the on-course build out, getting spectators on site, how you're moving people around. Each course obviously presents a different challenge, but I think we're acclimating well to this one. We've got a challenge we do with the Canyons course, but everything is solvable, right? So I think we're extremely excited about the product that it's going to put out for the PGA Tour. It's going to be a great test to some of the best players in the world. And as far as a spectator standpoint, it's going to provide some amazing views of the hill country. So, and there's some great risk reward holes coming down the stretch, which I think will make for some great entertainment.
When you guys decided on Fazio Canyons, what was kind of the discussion with the folks over at Omni Barton Creek to make sure that could happen?
Yeah, so I also came on board in November, so I wasn't privy to those conversations. Those all were ahead of my time. But I will say, there's a couple of reasons why that facility really jumps out. I think one being the renovations they've made, the work they've done to the golf course in recent years, and the length that they've added. I was fortunate enough to play the other weekend, and I didn't even get them close to the tips at 7,400 yards. I don't think anybody wants a part of that. But so obviously it presents a great challenge, we think, but also the practice facilities there. And you really look at the bones of what you need to operate a PGA Tour event, especially when you're talking about a field of 120 players. It provides all of that. So amazing driving range, super large tees. The short game area is great. So yeah, no, all in all, it gives us all the bones that we need. And again, I think from a competition standpoint, it's gonna be a great test, which, I mean, everyone loves to see these guys struggle here and there.
Are you guys also going to have good access to the hotel facilities and the property there at Barton Creek?
We will be, yeah. There's going to be a lot going on between both the Canyons golf course and the resort. Obviously, we'll be having a large number of sponsors flying into town. We'll be looking at having them there, a couple night functions, private events for those individuals. But really, when you look at the property as a whole, and you talk about the bones that goes into just the golf course, but also running an event and all the things that go into it outside of the ropes, having the resort there in close proximity, it's a great setup.
No question. And obviously, we don't know here in March as we record what the field might look like. But you mentioned 120 players. There are FedEx points on the line, 72 holes, 4 rounds. We talked last week on episode 12 to Texas head golf coach John Fields, and he talked about the brand of Austin, the brand of the Longhorns, and hopefully there's a bunch of former Longhorns that maybe jump into this event. Scotty Scheffler would be great. We don't know what that would look like. But John Fields just talked about how being in Austin is such a draw for recruiting golfers and recruiting young golfers, and what the allure. I'm sure you saw that at the Del Match Play. Just talk about what Austin brings to the PGA Tour as far as a tour stop.
Yeah, I think it shows, right, with the PGA Tour coming back to town. It shows, obviously, the PGA Tour views this, right, as a great market. I think now that I'm back in it, I'm happy to attest to that, right? And really beyond just the market, though, it's a great golf community. You look at all the different areas in town, right, that everyone rallies around. Everybody loves Muni. Everybody loves Butler Pitch and Putt. on top of that, the demographic, right? It's a great demographic for a PGA Tour event, especially when we focus on the entertainment world, right? So I know we've seen it time and time again, and I think we'll continue to see it. So we're obviously super excited to be back in this market, and I think time's only gonna continue to tell how great that is. So I was only around, call it the last couple years of the WGC Dell Technologies match play, but I think everybody could probably sit there and say, the first year was probably a lot different than the last year. And we're hoping that's going to be the same case with the Giga Championship. Obviously, we've got some strong and lofty goals and want to be a great event year one. But I think the more we sell on this market, everybody sees the event. I think it's our hope and goal, right, that it's only going to continue to grow in years to come.
Steve,
I've got a question. We're 8.5 months out or 8 months out from this event. What does your day look like today? What did you do today for the Good Championship?
I wish I could give you a more interesting response, Steve, but it's a lot of meetings.
There's a lot of meeting planning.
Yeah, a lot of planning, a lot of obviously you look at a professional golf event and a professional golf tournament, there's really we break it up into 3 areas, so to speak. So there's operations, there's sales, and tournament services, right? Which is really the player aspect and all the other minutiae that goes along with it after a sale's made. So, from a sponsorship standpoint, the fulfillment. And I'd say right now we're covering all 3 of those bases pretty solidly throughout each day, between obviously making sure the site plan's in a place where we can go ahead and make it a positive experience for everybody. From a sales standpoint, obviously we're seeing a lot of interest right now. Trying to make sure this is an event, right, that checks the boxes for interested sponsors. And then also going over the year one event, there's obviously a lot that needs to get figured out on the player front, right, and make sure it's a pleasurable experience for them. So I'd say right now we're covering all 3 bases pretty solidly.
Do you have any player commitments as of today that are big time that would be interesting?
I'm sure we do. I'd say how the PGA Tour, though, does their commitments, we try not to get ahead of ourselves. It's so fluid. The portal changes daily, especially as you get close. There's so many guys, hundreds of guys, right, that go ahead and commit to events and try to get their schedule filled out. But with a PGA Tour fall series event, FedEx Cup fall series event, a lot of that, right, is dependent upon eligibility, and that'll change a million ways to Sunday, I think, until November.
Well, we were talking yesterday that Good is such a large brand. Of course, they started off as a YouTube brand and broke into just the golf lifestyle brand, and now they're an equipment and apparel brand. But a large component of their business is video. And are they going to have any kind of inside the ropes access to record content during this event? Because I know the PGA Tour is relatively proprietary on event that's on content that's inside the ropes. I'm just wondering, we see folks like Good and Country Club adjacent media companies like that. This company is a media company. What kind of access are y'all going to give them?
Yeah, no, great question, Steve. You're spot on. The tour is rather proprietary when it comes to that information, but I think all parties are on board with this event, and that it's going to be a little unique. Right. Obviously, first time the PGA Tour is partnered with a digital first brand like this in this capacity as a title sponsor. So I think everybody's level setting with the expectations, right, of what this could look like. So not too much I can share yet, but I think it's safe to assume by the time this rolls around November, the coverage will look a little bit different and a little more unique than what you're seeing on Sunday right now.
So for our audience that's not as seasoned as our kids probably know Good better than we do. What for our audience, what is Good and what is that partnership? Steve kind of went through it a little bit of how they've grown, but man, it is an avenue for young golfers to come to the game of golf, which, as I said in our intro to you, Ian, is very exciting for the PGA Tour, who has a strong, loyal, older fan base, but you always have to be growing the fan base, which companies and media companies like Good certainly do.
Yeah, I know Steve touched on it a little bit, but just some background on the company. Good. Obviously, they started off in the YouTube space. It was a couple friends making videos together, and then everybody else during COVID, everybody was spending a lot of time at home watching videos, and like many other companies, that they blew up, so to speak, over the time of COVID. From there, their business now has grown. There's a few different facets of it. One obviously being YouTube. They still put out content frequently, but they have a podcast they've grown to. They have a clothing line, obviously, that's expanded. And then there's another arm of their business, their live events. So I'm not sure if anyone had a chance to catch it, but during the week of the WM Phoenix Open on Wednesday, Good hosted the Desert Open. So they were out at grass clippings there in Tempe, Arizona, essentially set up a mini professional event, so to speak, right? So they had about 2,500 people come out, filmed live on Golf Channel. It's just a great way for them to connect with a different demographic from a PGA Tour standpoint, which I think really goes back to why this is such a great partnership. And I think everyone's going to continue to see that as it grows. It's a great opportunity for Good to get in front of, call it, a more traditional golf demographic. The folks that are watching, Golf Channel Thursday, Friday, and watching the coverage on CBS Saturday, Sunday. But then it's also great for the PGA Tour. It brings those two demographics together and puts both brands in front of a new set of eyes.
Ian, do you anticipate, and when you accepted this role, did you understand that because of the nature of Good and what a different media creature and mindset it is, that there could be a little bit of, there could be a little bit of kitten herding going on here, where you just don't know what's happening, and you have to just accept that.
Yeah, I try to stay ahead of as much as I can. Obviously, especially being a year one event, being such a creative and unique brand, there's tons of ideas that are getting flown around right now. But it's all exciting stuff, and I try to stay in front of as many as possible. But yes, the long story short, Charlie, I would say when I was going through the process and looking at this opportunity, that was definitely front of mind, knowing this event would be a little more unique and there'd be a lot more ideas thrown around, right, on how to make this event special, which again is all the more reason why it was appealing to me. I think this event, it's really going to be in a unique position to go ahead and do some of these things and make a name for itself in more creative ways than one.
Now, is the event also going to have some of the traditional aspects that we come to expect as part of the PGA Tour event formula, perhaps a Monday Pro-Am, a Wednesday Pro-Am, or pairings parties for a Pro-Am, and those kinds of things that help build kind of community and corporate support?
Absolutely. Good is totally aware, right, of what they're coming into, and they want to be respectful of it being a PGA Tour event, right? Obviously, there's a lot of things that go in with that. And at the end of the day, these professionals are playing for a lot, especially the second to last week of the season. So, no, they're definitely aware of that. I think a lot of it comes down to how do they make it fun and more accessible for more folks, but also how does it make it more appealing, right, to your general spectator while still respecting that it's a PGA Tour event. Touching on the scheduled events, long story short, yes, Charlie, it's going to be, when you look at the bones of the schedule for our tournament week, it'll fall in line, I think, with what you see across the PGA Tour schedule for a lot of events. We will have a Monday Pro-Am closed to the public. That we'll be looking for some local partners here that want to partake in that day. Tuesday will be practice rounds. Typical day, close the public. Wednesday will be our official Pro-Am. We'll have some more news coming out on that day, I think, here in the next couple months, but we're going to be, I think, getting ready to announce some really exciting stuff that's even more unique for that day on Wednesday here in the next coming months. And then Thursday through Sunday, obviously traditional stroke play setup, right, with 120 players with a cut after Friday.
You're talking about how ideas kind of just flow out and dealing with content creators, which is what we do a lot of times at our municipal facilities. They just throw an idea out there that seems so, makes so much sense to them. And sometimes you have to explain, hey man, you can't just fly a drone wherever you want to. We're within a mile and a half of the airport. They come up with some wild stuff, and that's where they make their money. That's what makes them famous is the wild stuff. So I'm really excited to see how the content creation and the PGA Tour, how they're going to melt together. I think it's going to be a really great experience for everybody.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, right, that's part of the reason too why I'm in this seat and H&S Sports is involved too, right? It's trying to blend those two, right, and bring those two together. Obviously, I think there's a lot of differences, right, that go along in timelines too, as far as planning goes. Like you touched, Steve, that come up, in that world, in that space. There's a lot of ideas that get brought up on a lot shorter, timelines, so to speak, versus when it comes to planning a PGA Tour event. And from a PGA Tour perspective, right, some tend to be a little longer timelines. So again, that's really where I think our staff comes into play, right, and trying to bring those two groups together and level set and try to really take some of those ideas and act on them.
Ian, let me ask you, Ian Helm with us, of course, tournament director for the Good Championship in November, a PGA Tour event coming back to Austin in 2026 and growing from there. You talk about partnering and blending the digital age and the youth with the old school golfer. How about blending Austin with this event? I mean, Steve is on the ground every day with the city of Austin. You mentioned Butler Pitch and Putt and Muni and Clay Kaiser, and we talk every week about the passion for golf. And there's more rounds that people want to play than they have golf courses and golf holes. How do you make with your staff, get in the community and organically kind of make Austin feel like this is their tournament? And the 512 is representing, and then you're promoting it within the city courses and whatnot. I'm assuming that's part of the plan to allow Austin to feel like they have some ownership in this PGA Tour event.
Absolutely, and Aaron, I'm glad you brought that up because I've actually got some news to drop on you all here tonight. Good in the coming days will actually be making an announcement, blasting these out on their channels, but they'll be looking at hosting an event at Butler Pitch and Putt on the 16th and 17th of this month. And we'll be going on sale with tickets shortly after that Wednesday, the 18th. So they'll be making that announcement here in the next couple of days via their social channels, also the tournament channels. And we're really looking at that event, right, as a kickoff and a launch for the Good Championship here and engaging the Good brand here with the Austin community. So we're really excited about that event. I think when you look at all the places in town where you could possibly do an event like that, I think Butler Pitch and Putt, makes all the sense in the world. And there'll be more info to come on that event. But I know speaking of ideas, there's some really fun ones being thrown around right now on what that could look like.
I'll try and get the scoop on that and report back next week, guys.
Yeah, something tells me you've been in those preliminary meetings, Steve-O. But that's awesome. That's great to hear, because this is one thing I do know, having done radio in this market for 3 decades. And Charlie, you're a local company, and Steve, you're Muni. This town supports local. They love the idea of things that are born in the 512, born in Austin, and this one for its first year, kind of as great as the WGC Dell Technologies match play was, that kind of bounced from place to place and landed in Austin for a stretch. This one is I got to feel like it's being born in Austin, and Austin can adopt it as its own moving forward. I think that's a pretty cool opportunity in this market.
Yeah, no doubt. Again, I came in November. There was conversations had before I arrived, but I know when the idea of this tournament started taking place, and the idea started to get thrown around of, well, where could this thing be hosted? I know Austin was always high on Good's list. And it just so happened everything worked out. So I think it's mutual from the tournament standpoint and the folks here in Austin. I think too, as we go through and planning this event, it's important that goes into the blueprint of this event. We need to make sure that obviously, high on our list, right, it's local food partners, it's local clothing brands. How can we engage with them? How can we make this event really feel like Austin's own? Rather than just some other stop on tour. So those are all things that I know are high on our list and will continue to be as we go through the planning process.
I've got one. Tom Fazio builds his golf courses with the idea of having a PGA Tour event in mind. But he also carved that one out of the side of a canyon. What's the challenge like setting that thing up for spectatorship?
Yeah, obviously a few things go into it when you're talking about looking at building a site plan essentially from scratch. One being, where are you bringing everybody in at? Where are you bringing buses? Where are you funneling everybody through? But then also on top of that, you're looking at what holes can we build out on? Where can we build hospitality? Where can we sell space? Where can we have enough space, ample space for spectators to really sit down on the closing stretch, and the general ticket holder, where can they post up? So there's a lot of things that go into it. I think really when we build that site plan, that's where we start. It's where can we bring people in? What's going to give, call it, the most pleasurable experience from start to finish? So we start there really and work backwards, taking all those things into consideration. So I will say the back nine there at the Canyons course, I know when I was approached about the opportunity to take this position, I was spending some time on Google Earth and I'm looking around at, all the different holes, and I'm like, ooh, this is going to be tough. But and it will be, but I think, the more time we're spending out there on the golf course, my staff at H&S, the good team, I think we're a lot more ideas are sparking, and I think we've found that there's a lot more room around some of these greens on the closing stretch than we initially thought. And then as far as getting people around, I know we're getting pretty unique, I think, with a couple ideas. One being, I'm not sure how familiar everybody is, obviously, with the property, but there is a HOA, obviously, that runs through the property. You want to be respectful of that, but I know we've looked into, internal shuttles. So some, call it non-traditional ideas, right, that makes the consumer experience a little more pleasurable. So looking at implementing things like that to really help people get around that property. And I think for the folks that truly do want to go and follow a couple holes and walk along, there's stretches that present that opportunity.
So do you guys also have any updates on how you're trying to get a community of volunteers involved in the golf tournament, Ian?
Yeah, no, volunteer will be a huge piece of this event. We'll be needing at least 1,000 volunteers for the week, which sounds like a large number, but I think the interest will be there, no doubt. We're going to have plenty of opportunities, everything from, call it, helping out with courtesy vehicles, to the caddy lounge, to greeting our guests and hospitality spaces. So there'll be a large number of opportunities to get involved. We're looking at launching that program here in the next 6 to 8 weeks. Right now on our website, goodgoodchampionship.com, we do have an inquiry form where you can go ahead and select if you're interested in becoming a volunteer, and those folks will be the first to hear of all those opportunities.
Excited about that. And charitable aspect, I know that's always a big PGA Tour push, and Dell Match Play was no different. How do you guys approach the charitable influence of what this event will raise money for?
Yeah, no, it's a big piece, obviously, of every PGA Tour event, and it's a big reason too why this event's happening, right? And we want to make sure that the folks here locally in Austin see that impact firsthand. So I will say, Good is an ambassador of the Play Yellow campaign, part of Children's Miracle Network. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar, but it's a great cause. They will be one of the primary beneficiaries of this event. Obviously, with Dell Children's here being a CMN hospital, there's a lot of synergy there naturally. Another cause of the event will be supporting will be the Folds of Honor. Again, great program that Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney began some years ago that awards scholarships to spouses and children of fallen or disabled military, active military, or veterans or first responders. So 2 great programs we'll be leaning into. And then obviously there's so many great causes, right, that we could go ahead and support with this event. So we're going through the process right now and seeing what other possible beneficiaries could be in the mix here.
Yeah, one of the things that Aaron and I have always talked about with any of our golf discussions, and with Steve as well, is I think at the bedrock of even this discussion and having good and you guys here in is growing the game of golf in Austin, and whether it's at the very grassroots levels with youngsters or bringing new people into the game and introducing them new people into the game. I think, anything that you all can do to kind of carry that theme as well of growing the game of golf, I'm sure the folks in Austin would appreciate it, because this is certainly a grassroots golf community that everyone's very proud of.
No, there really is, and it's being discussed, no doubt. And there's so many great programs here locally. With the good demographic and the fan base, there's obviously a lot of natural synergy there as well. So obviously now it's Play Yellow and Folds of Honor as 2 beneficiaries, but they will not be the only 2. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, Ian, we could keep going, but I know you need to probably hit the traffic, and we appreciate the conversation, and hopefully the first, as I said in our intro, of several between now and the event, as we get the lead up and keep our podcast audience up to date with the very, very latest. You mentioned the goodgoodchampionship.com website where they can keep tabs on things. And obviously, it sounds like an event coming to the Butler Pitch and Putt here pretty shortly, which is exciting. We will keep everybody posted with that. But unless you guys have any other questions, Charlie, Steve, we can say we appreciate it, Ian, and that was a lot of fun. And thanks for the update. And then keep drinking out of that fire hose.
Yeah. It'll slow down eventually. You'll know that. It'll slow down eventually about tournament time.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe the week after the tournament. But thanks for having me, guys. It was a real pleasure, and absolutely would love to come on again in the future as things develop. And again, tickets going on sale to the general public here March 18th. So I encourage everybody to follow our channels and be on the lookout for that. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on with us.
Thank you, Ian. Ian Helm. That is good stuff right there. And awesome. As we get a PGA Tour event, and Ian's kind, very, very kind of him. And Charlie, I know you and I on the radio conversations we've had on 102.7 ESPN. And Steve, I mean, this is when the Dell Match Play, relocated in 2023 and down to Houston and took the spot. I know, Charlie, you've been really wondering how we're going to bring something back. Could we bring something back? And it seems like this all came together pretty quickly, and it's pretty exciting. It's going to be happening this year.
Yeah, I think this is good for Austin golf. It just reinforces what, we thought always was here. And I think the point is really well made to have this be a first, this is their first foray as the title sponsor into it is good. This is the first, fall event that Austin's held. Even going back to the Champions Tour, Legends of Golf tournament, that was always in the spring, and the LPGA Tour events were in the earlier part of the year when we had those here. The Dell Match Play was also in March in the springtime. So it'll be a different kind of experience, but I think Austin will get a chance to connect with this event in a very Austin way, and really make it its own. There's that opportunity for it, and I really look forward to seeing how everyone from the public golf course universe to the corporate community, the general business community, the Austin sports media community, how all of this can come together and really promote this event and make it truly not just unique but really successful.
Steve, what's your sense on that from the ground level and the Butler Pitch and Putt event he announced? I mean, I'm excited to see your reports back on what you're seeing on the ground at the muni courses as we get towards this thing and what the buzz might be surrounding it. It's going to be happening during a UT football season. That's not lost on anybody either, but we'll certainly be making people aware here on the podcast. But what's your sense of that?
Well, I don't think that good golf should be underestimated. And we talked about it with Ian just a second ago, that they started off as a YouTube company. These guys raised, these 20-something and early 30-something guys, they raised $45 million last March for their company. They are a business-minded group that also happens to have great content. And I kind of parallel them with what they're doing in the apparel space and the equipment space with say Travis Matthews. Travis Matthews started off as a very, very small lifestyle brand. And then all of a sudden you saw Travis Matthews shirts being worn at church or just being worn out to dinner, that they were a small golf brand that developed into this huge lifestyle brand. And that's what Good has morphed into. They started off as a really cool YouTube fun video company, fun content creation group. They are a legitimate business in the golf space. We carry their apparel out at Clay Kaiser. We, from hats to shirts and, just general golf equipment of theirs. They are legitimate. They are here to stay. And you don't fund one of these PGA Tour events, just to see if you can. I think early on in the episodes, I think we were talking episode 3 or 4, we were talking about this, and I was wondering how long that they would be able to be that title sponsor. I was mistaken. They have some significant staying power, especially if it goes well. And if it does go well, they get a better spot on the calendar as well. Nobody's watching, not as many people are watching golf in late October, early November, because we are football minded. But if they really put on a show, they can turn this thing around, and I think they can get themselves a better spot on the calendar.
Well, and that builds back, Charlie, into something we talked about at the end of our John Fields conversation about, the tour changes and maybe the Texas swing at some point, which San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, and maybe Austin becomes a more featured, attractive place in the future. And you got to grow into that on the Texas swing.
Yeah, and there's that opportunity and possibility out there as well. Steve, to amplify even a little bit more about who's behind Good and what that could mean during the football season. One of the chief principals involved in the investment of this $45 million in Good is Peyton Manning, and so he's you got. And Good now then Good has this aspiration to be a top 5 golf brand. Now, we're not talking about top 5 golf club brand or golf merchandise brand, a top 5 golf brand. So how do you go about doing that? You get people involved who understand the power of marketing and branding. And certainly you've seen how Peyton Manning is a super marketable human being in just about everything he does. But to be in top 5 golf, you're talking golf brands. Tiger Woods is a golf brand. Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, those are golf brands. Titleist is a golf brand. And then you kind of go down deep into it. And Good has aspirations to be a top 5 golf brand. This will probably be a good topic for another day, but nonetheless, when you think about what their aspirations are, they're not shooting low. They're starting in the grassroots. But Steve, to your point, I think they have an idea of how they can escalate this thing very quickly.
Yeah. Well, and Austin is a thriving market, a dynamic market, and it seems, as we said from the very beginning, when this was announced in one of our first episodes, of a very nice marriage and partnership for both sides. Wants in Austin, and golf and PGA Tour wants a spot in Austin, and one that can grow with the local technology community, with a community that we know very well has deeply rooted in golf. And we've talked to the Scotty Sayers and the John Fields and the Omar Urestis of the world. They understand golf in Austin, but also the young tech money and digital money and young people who are getting into golf. I think it's a really fascinating watch as we get into this thing in November. And as he said, tickets go on sale March 18th. The Butler Pitch and Putt event will be being announced here shortly, which is pretty exciting stuff. And that is a lofty expectation. And Steve-O, Peyton Manning, he's left the NFL and he's on every commercial, but he's also started his own Omaha Productions brand that does the Manning cast, and they do all the videos. He's already knee deep in this whole digital world. So that's a great partnership, and he loves golf as well. So I think reaching out to the right people, Peyton Manning seems like a good one.
Oh, I think it's a great idea. And media is no longer owned by NBC, ABC, ESPN. It's owned by whoever can put out good material. That's what I've kind of learned over the last few months is just the big four. They no longer own everything. There's just too many avenues to get good media out there, whether it be news or entertainment. It's just now the possibilities are endless. Look at us. We slapped together this podcast here on a StreamYard, and it's we're on the move.
There we go. Yeah, content is king, boys. Content is king.
Yeah, content, and great guests like John Fields and like Ian Helm, and guest after guest, and who knows shows up next Tuesday when we record this episode 14. And I would say to that point, I just for example to our audience, the Pat McAfee show. I'm not the biggest of Pat McAfee fans, but he started his own podcast after he ended his NFL career as a punter. And he and his buddies, just like this, started a podcast. And now you see him all over the world on ESPN doing College Game Day. ESPN doesn't own his show, though. ESPN licensed it to carry his show in the midday. And he still owns his own content. Those are the kind of things, to your point about good. If you put out the right content, you deliver what the audience wants. He technically is, works with ESPN, but he's not employed by ESPN. He could pull his show off ESPN anytime he wants because he and his team are providing the content to ESPN that they want. They want that audience without having to develop the show themselves. I think that's a great example within the sports realm, and that's kind of good what they're trying to do in the golf world, it seems to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, guys, some general golf conversation, and what we make of the first of the Florida events with the young guy winning an event last week, bought a house in that same neighborhood, and then wins the tournament. And now we're headed to Arnold Palmer's place at Bay Hill in Florida. This will be another one of those signature events at Arnold Palmer's place there outside Orlando. A pretty fun tournament coming this weekend.
Yeah, if you look through the field, already you see like Jonathan Vegas is in the field. Of course, Scotty Scheffler's in the field. We're talking about Longhorns here. Pearson Cootie's in the field. So those are going to be some exciting folks to watch. Jordan's going to be in the field. So Bay Hill's always an exciting tournament. No telling who wins it, but the wind is going to be a factor out there. Fun event to watch. It's one of the events that I really enjoy paying attention to every year.
Yeah, you mentioned, and Charlie, we talked about it with Coach Fields. Pearson Cootie, a player to watch. He's inside the top 50 now, I believe, still. And what did Coach Fields tell us last week? If Pearson can stay inside the top 50, he'll get to play at the Masters. His grandfather won the event in the early 70s, and he's still with us. And what a scene that would be, a grandson and a grandfather, gathering in early April in Augusta. So I think all Longhorn fans will be rooting for Scotty and Jonathan, but also Jordan Spieth, but also Pearson Cootie.
Yeah, he was on the climb, top 45. He was 45th in the world last week. Like we talked with Coach Fields, it is only a matter of time before he punches through the ceiling and is a force. And I like what Coach Fields says is once Pearson punches through, Parker's going to want some of that action. Twin brothers, think they've rivaled a little bit. So those are going to be two fun guys to watch over the next couple of years.
Yeah, Parker better giddy up because Pearson's really going fast. So yeah, you better get on that horse and go. You're absolutely right. It'll be a fun rivalry to watch. You got the aspects of Scotty, just carrying the flag, the banner for the tour right now, and other guys who are making themselves known. I thought it was pretty interesting that it was tough to see Steve Lowry. It was just tough to see that happen at the end. But you know what? I think all of us have had those days and those moments, and you just have to, you feel for the guy and hope that he'll bounce back and put that behind him. He'll have a chance this week at Bay Hill for sure.
Yeah, Shane Lowry was right there, and that's the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. We see it everywhere, and that's competitive golf. Hey, what do you, Steve? I know you follow the Live Tour, but also the DP World Tour. Jon Rahm is in the news. He doesn't agree with the DP World Tour and a 6-event minimum. His Ryder Cup status will be in jeopardy now. He's still over at the Live Tour. DP World Tour has made a rule, and he's going to have to play. Now that's what are your thoughts on Jon Rahm's stance there and where it stands? Because we saw him once again. That guy is such a Ryder Cup monster. We all saw it last fall. That guy's unbelievable, but he may not be able to compete under this new rule.
What the intent behind that rule is, I don't really know. I would think that you would want the best 12 guys on your Ryder Cup team, although I do understand Jon Rahm's stance. At the same time, these guys, they all left with full understanding of what this meant. And they really thought all these tours would cave and cater to them once they left and thought there was going to be a bunch of people going with them. That's from my perspective. I don't like saying what people thought. These guys got a very large payday, and it is not fair to the rest of the golf world on the DP Tour or the PGA Tour. It's not okay that they had Rory McIlroy, banging that PGA Tour drum, and then let everybody back in just at will. It's not appropriate because Rory left 2, 3, who knows how many hundreds of millions of dollars on the table by not going. So I don't put much stock in what they say whenever they don't agree with what the governing bodies rule. They are given world golf ranking points, but it's all going to be so watered down because nobody on the Live Golf Tour, even though they went to 4 rounds, nobody on the Live Golf Tour is as nationally recognizable as they were whenever it first started, when Brooks and Dustin and Reed and DeChambeau, whenever they all left, all of those guys were, top 50 in the world. And so now that there's nobody for them to compete against. They're not going to gain the world ranking points that they would get otherwise because the field seems to be watered down. I'm certain all those guys can play, but the field just seems to be watered down, so they're not going to gain the world ranking points. As far as Ryder Cup stances go, I want the 12 best folks on there. You know, I don't care who likes each other, who doesn't like each other. I want the 12 best guys competing for my flags, but those are just decisions they're having to make, and they're trying to market their events and trying to get Jon Rahm to play more events because that means dollars for them, and it also means fairness for the other cats that are playing on that tour.
Yeah, it adds some legitimacy, and I guess he still has the wild card of he could be a captain's pick, right? So even if he plays a minimal number, or maybe I could be wrong. If he doesn't play 6 events, then he can't even be a captain's pick. If that's the case, then he's got an issue. But you're right. The consequence of him and the others deciding to move to that tour and take the perks that went with them, the consequence is they had to leave that other stuff behind. And so, play by the rules, John.
If there's a captain's pick involved, that's great. There's 3 guys that I don't leave off my Ryder Cup team if I'm Europe: Ian Poulter, Sergio Garcia, and Jon Rahm. Those 3 guys are making my Ryder Cup team if I have a say in it. Why they chose to take this stance, I think, is in fairness to the other players. But
Sure.
and I know that Serge and Ian are past their prime, but they've just been so impressive over the last 25 years in the Ryder Cup. They're coming with me if they want a seat on the bus.
Yeah, and then obviously saw last time with Rory and Fleetwood and Rahm, just the monsters they were against the USA side. It was
Lowry.
Shane Lowry, quite the performance on U.S. soil last time around. So they'll be coming back in 2027. All right, guys, unless there's more, I know we've got some city championships coming up, Steve-O, and you guys just talked the weather. The Bermuda's already coming in. The grass is confused, but we'll take it. Could get some rain over this weekend too, it looks like. What's our weather forecast, Steve-O? You're always keeping an eye on that.
It's marginal. The weather forecast is marginal for us. The weather folks love to encourage people to cancel their tee times, but don't cancel them just yet. Let's see how this thing shakes out. But we were talking last week about we do have some registrations open for some of our championships and some of our tournaments. Our spring championship, that registration opened. That tournament's going to be at Jimmy Clay on March 28th and 29th. But if you're just a casual golfer, like to have a good time, want to play in a little bit of a competitive atmosphere, we have a great anniversary cup out at Hancock Golf Course on April 4th. It's a 2-person scramble. We do 2 events out there like that each year. We do the Pumpkin Open in October, and then we do an anniversary cup. This will be the 127th year for Hancock Golf Course.
Wow.
Madison, my daughter, and I, we played in the Pumpkin Open back at Halloween, 2-person scramble. We had a good time. We finished, 3rd or whatever, played pretty good, and we just had a great time. And Hancock is a wonderful place to go. Maybe you're not ultra competitive against the field, but you and your wife, you and your brother, you and somebody who doesn't play much, go out there, have a good time playing that little 9-hole event. Registration's open for that as well.
Awesome.
Golf 512, is that where you find that?
GolfATX.org.
GolfATX.org. Sorry about that. Brain fart.
512 is where you get tee times.
You get tee time. All right, Charlie Wilson. Good stuff. Steve Hammond, thank you to Ian. That was awesome. Get an update on the Good Championship. Got a lot of good information there. Share that with a friend. Share it with your golfing buddies. Please send it out. It'll be found at our YouTube page, 1027 ESPN on YouTube. All the digital entities there at the radio station, and we'll push that thing out and get some good push. Send it out and let people know that the PGA Tour is coming back to Austin here in 2026. Charlie, Steve, good stuff, man. We appreciate it, and we'll do it again next week with episode 14.
That's great.
All right,
thanks,
good stuff, guys. Have a great week, everybody, and rank those bunkers.